Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, depending upon where you're at in the world, or even evening. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I'm here today to help you build your best cloud computing career. Maybe you desire to be a cloud architect. Maybe your goal is to be a solution architect. Maybe you want to be an enterprise architect, a cloud engineer, whatever your tech career is that you dream of. I want to help you get there. See, I've been working in technology now for over 25 years, and I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades. And I want to help you get your first tech job as well, whether that be a cloud architect job, solution architect job, enterprise architect job, network engineer job. I want to help you get hired. This morning, one of my students just said, "Hey, Mike, I got cloud hired." And yesterday, one of my students also told me they got cloud hired. Now, yesterday's student was a very special psychologist, and her first tech job was as a solution architect. So we can get anybody your goals if you do the work. All of you can achieve your dreams if you have the right plan. And that's why I'm here to help you build the right plan. See, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And a zigzag thing can cause people years of mistakes and keep them from getting to their goal. But if you know the right flight plan and you know how to get there, you can achieve anything you want. And with my 20 years experience of helping people get their first job and 25 years experience in tech, going on interviews and getting hired every single time because I know exactly what the hiring managers want, I'm here to share that experience with you. So that's why you're here. Bring in your questions so we can help you get cloud hired, cloud promoted, network hired, network promoted, whatever it is, the goal of your dreams. To help you get hired, I want to tell you about some free things that we're doing for you. Tomorrow, every Thursday, we have a How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And on this webinar, it is an incredible amount of fun. We get wonderful people come from all over the globe. And I tell you the following. I tell you how to leverage your life experience from other industries to convince the hiring manager they need you on your team. I will show you exactly what hiring managers dream about on the perfect employee. Why? When you're new or you're trying to get promoted, if you're exactly what the hiring manager dreams about, they're willing to look past a lot of things, in many cases like lack of experience. Then I will show you exactly what the job actually is and what the job entails, so you know exactly the things that you need to learn. And trust me, 90% of them plus are not covered in certifications. If you want these elite jobs, these cloud architect jobs, or even cloud engineer jobs, especially at the principal and distinguished level, you need to be exactly what you need to do. And again, none of that's covered with certifications. So, there's that. And that's why we're here. So then we'll tell you what should be on your resume. Then we'll even tell you how to get your resume in the hands of the hiring manager so you don't get on a block from HR due to lack of experience. So there, and we're going to do it completely free. Then it'll be on Zoom. So if you've got some questions, you can ask me questions and I'll answer them in real time. So I want you all to get cloud hired, cloud promoted, so you can have the best careers and the best life you can possibly imagine. Right now, I want to let you know to follow us on LinkedIn. We are going to be releasing so many things on LinkedIn. We've got about 11 blogs stacked up more to help you with your cloud architect or solution architect interviews coming for you. They're already pre-written. We're going to distribute them on LinkedIn. I'm in magazines, at least 2 to 3 magazine articles per week, every week. People come to me to talk about how do you get hired in a down economy? How do you get promoted, Mike? How do you get your first solution architect job? How do you get your first tech job? You'll see me in everything from Investors Business Daily to Information Week to Hacker Noon. And I want you to be able to see these articles. I write them all to help you build your best career. And follow us on LinkedIn, and you'll get to see them free. Follow Go Cloud Careers and me. My team will link them. Now, my average student's biggest problem is on the getting hired front is they get bombarded with recruiters and hiring managers. It's like every day, do you want an interview? 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 And my biggest challenge for my students is saying, wait, I need a couple months because, they want to get hired on that interview. So if you'd like to be like my students, we're going to hold a LinkedIn and resume workshop. It's going to be a very inexpensive workshop. And we're going to tell you exactly how to tune your resume to show your life experience matters, to show the hiring manager that you understand this career, not somebody else's job, so you can get those interviews. And we're going to do it very inexpensively. It's something I do with my students all the time. At that point, it's all up to you and your knowledge. Do you have the knowledge to be an architect or an engineer of the goal? And if you do, then you're going to be good to go. And I'm looking at these inflationary numbers, and my team's looking at these inflationary numbers, and we know the only key to helping people get out of this inflation struggle is to raise their salary. And you know what? We are extremely good at it. This week I had somebody tell me they got a 6-figure raise after taking our course, which was less than $1,000, and they got a $100,000 raise annually for the rest of their life. And we want to help all of you be in that same position. So here's the good news. We are running a 30% off discount code off of every product we have, at least for a little while longer. I want you to reach your maximum potential. So we want to help you reach your maximum potential. So use 30% for 30% off of all of our products. Use coupon code potential. Now at this point, I would really, really, really like people to ask questions so I can help get you to your goals. And before we do, tell me the career in the chat box. Say solution architect, cloud architect, enterprise architect, network architect, network engineer, cloud network engineer, cloud security engineer. Tell me your goal career. And also tell me where you're at. And give me a hashtag cloud hired while you're at it. And then let's bring in the questions and start having some fun so you can all reach your potential. Robert Welch, good morning, Mike. And he's definitely a cloud security architect. And Robert is a rock star when it comes to cloud security. He's fantastic. Leo Paredes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes, good to see you. Up and up, cloud hired. I'm thrilled to see you here. Henry, cloud hired over there in Cyprus. Benjamin, good morning. We are thrilled to have you here, Benjamin. Enoch, for some of us not currently in Europe or America, we know that most of the jobs in cloud computing are from those places. What do you advise to these issues? Well, Enoch, here's the thing. They're not all coming from North America or Europe. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from they're coming from all kinds of places. So, for example, Enoch, about a year ago, I was asked to go support a client in Japan. And it was relatively good pay. They had offered me over $300,000 to support it remotely. So Enoch, what I did is I called my best friend Nagaraju, who's over there in Bangalore, and said, are you interested in this job? So look, you don't have to be in the US or Europe. I had somebody in New Zealand get hired about a week ago. I had somebody in Australia get hired a week ago. And there's also remote work. So when you're not local, you do remote work. Now, the bigger question is, do you have an airport near you? That's the bigger question. The next question is, do you have the right skills? The next question is, are you fluent in an international language that matters? For example, I've got lots of students in Nigeria, for example, who speak perfect English, and they can use that internationally. I've also got some wonderful students in Cameroon. And guess what? Some speak English and some speak French. And again, that works internationally as well. So, these are kind of these things that really help. Do you have the right skills? Can you put the right resume together? Can you build the right brand? And Enoch, if you have the right brand, there's a shortage of people. And especially with what's going on in the economy right now, obviously we see positions like cloud architecture coming on sale, being companies still needing as many, if not more, because they're bringing in the money. But, cloud engineering and other things, those jobs can be outsourced to any part of the world. Now, Enoch, you're also going to notice that the cloud providers are starting to invest in certain markets. For example, AWS is giving free vouchers in certain parts of Africa because they're trying to train a global workforce. So to do these things in cloud computing. So the point is, Enoch, nothing is ever geography-based completely. Now, I'll tell you how it does affect you. For example, I lived in New York, the New York Metro, Princeton, New Jersey, exactly. While I was in Princeton, New Jersey, here's what my life was like. I'd go to work, I'd come home, I'd check my Yahoo email because it was a long time ago, and I had 5 to 6 people basically saying, Mike, do you want to work for me? And I was like, thank you, I'm very happy. Please, can we form a relationship in case for the future? Now, when I moved to Florida many years ago, it was like, well, here's a job, and they all paid a lot less than New Jersey. And I don't mean a little less, I mean not even half. But, so what that meant is when I worked in Florida, what I did is I just got on the airplane and flew every day. And I kept my New York, New Jersey pay instead of basically taking something that was local. Now, Enoch, in Florida, things changed. In Florida, it got very industrialized, for example, and lots of people fled other places to come to Florida. And all of a sudden, Florida's got a vibrant market. So, things do change and they're always influx. But if your skills are great, I mean, truly, truly great, there's always a need for you. There's always a need for you. And be great. Truly maximize it. Find out exactly what the job that you desire is and become the expert at that job. Now, one of the biggest challenges I've seen in 20 years of career coaching is everybody seems to learn everybody else's job. And I mean, I really want you to understand the ridiculousness of this. If you want to be a doctor, for example, or a physician, nobody would go to law school. Nobody would become an accountant. Nobody would become a personal trainer. Nobody would become a dog walker. And nobody, for example, would become a chef. They'd go to medical school and become a doctor. But in tech, we've seen the people that want to do this. Let me study the sysops because I want to be an architect or a designer. Hey, let me study this DevOps thing. Let me study this machine learning thing. Let me study this developer thing. And that's where people go wrong, Enoch. Where it really puts people in the position is it's kind of like, well, is it a doctor or is it a dog walker, a flight attendant, an airplane pilot, a lawyer? You just don't know. So I advise you to be the best in the world at your career. I mean, be great at it. Live, eat, breathe, sleep it. Practice in front of a mirror describing a piece of technology if you want a customer-facing role. Videotape yourself, even on the cheapest, weakest cell phone you can get, and look, did I speak in a monotone? Did I use any gestures to add some gravitas? Did I make a point, pause, make the next point? Did I vary my vocal tone? Was I very crisp on what is the tech, how does the tech work, and why would a business use it, business benefits, etc.? Those kind of things signal the hiring managers wherever that you are somebody special. So that's what I would do. Be the best. The world always will find you. And it's a global world now. Global opportunities, and Enoch, you can do fantastic. Great question. Please feel free to bring more. Here to win. What are your thoughts about the current economic situation and how that might affect cloud careers, architect, engineer, DevOps? So here to win, I think we are facing what looks like a down recession. I don't know if we're truly in a recession or not. A recession is defined as 2 negative quarters of GDP growth.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, I'm going to put this one up first because I think it's a timely one.
Okay.
From Mark. He needs some last minute words of wisdom for you from you.
Okay, Mark. Well, so Mark is a fantastic person. He just became a student of mine. He's a great person. His wife's really nice, and he's super smart with a great different kind of background. Mark, when you go on the interview, I want you to convey the following, especially you. You have a lot of life experience, Mark, which means you have wisdom. That wisdom is your superpower. So show them that you're cautious, you're knowledgeable, depth of knowledge matters to you. Now, at the same time, we want to make sure that you understand exactly what hiring managers want, which is the following. Technical competency above all else is 50% of it. So show them that you understand and you've got deep knowledge of your career and you can do it. The next thing, Mark, is the following. Employers want somebody they can trust. Now, I've done about 6,000 interviews, and all but 50 people have lied to me. So, Mark, I encourage you to remember this answer. There will be a question that you don't know. And in some cases, we will ask you a question that we know you won't know just to see how you respond. Mark, I want you to think of the 3 biggest things that you know and you know best that could be potentially related to the job. And Mark, when you get asked a question of something that you don't know, just say, I'm sorry, I've not had the opportunity to have a lot of experience with that technology yet. But I'm highly energetic, I'm highly motivated, and I absolutely love technology. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to these things very quickly. But you know what? I know a lot about X, Y, and Z. And Mark, I want you to do this for the following reasons. The hiring managers care about the following. Can you do the job and can they trust you? Next, they care about, do you know what you know and know what you don't know, so you're safe. So you don't make a BGP misconfiguration issue like the kind of thing that took down the Google Cloud or Facebook, for example. Next, after that, they want to see your energy, enthusiasm, and passion. So tell them it's that. And Mark, in your case, where you've got a little more wisdom, you still have to show the energy, enthusiasm, and passion, which I know you have because I've spoken to you. Now, next on the list, people want an energizer, which is an emotionally intelligent person that brings out the best in others. Mark, I know that's you. I've spoken to you. So show it. The next thing they want are people that are willing to go above and beyond and team players. Because people walk in, and here's what an interview is like now. Yo, I want this pay, and I'm not willing to do this, this, or this. I want unlimited vacation time. And we hiring managers are like, fine, there's the door. So, I mean, we want to treat our employees great. So this matters. So, Mark, when you say, I'm sorry, I've not had to learn this technology yet or work with this technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly experienced, and I absolutely love technology. I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly. And if this was important to you, I would stay up all night, read 1,000 pages a day, and master it as quick as possible. But do you know what I know a lot about? This, and this. So, Mark, what did we just tell them? First, I'm going to give you some principles of neuro-linguistic programming. Hey, Mark, don't think of a dog. I know you just thought of a dog because the brain doesn't process a no or a not. So while we're at it, if you say, I'm sorry, I've not had the chance to work with the technology yet, but anything before the but, neuro-linguistic programming tells us is completely forgotten. So what are you really answering the person? I am energetic, enthusiastic, and love technology. I know what I know and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things quickly. But I know a lot about this, this, and this. So what you basically told them is that you are everything the hiring manager wanted. Wait, you just told them, showed them you were honest. You then showed them you were energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. You then told them you were willing to go above and beyond, and you know what you know and you don't know. And in that no, where you didn't even have an answer, you just told them you're everything they want. So that would be there. Now, Mark, at the end of the interview, they will ask, do you have any questions? Do not use one of those stupid questions that you see on LinkedIn that everybody tells you to look smart. No. Mark, you need to do two things at this point. You need to show the hiring manager that they need you and can't live without you. But also, you want to get the job description. Now, any of these job descriptions that we see have nothing to do with what we actually do. What is your job description? What matters to your hiring manager? Because that's what you're going to be doing. So the last question you should ask is, Mrs. Hiring Manager, could you tell me your goals so that I know if I was on your team, I could help you be more successful? Now, this signals the hiring manager that you care about them and their goals and will make them more successful, which will make them more likely to hire you. But in addition to that, guess what else it does, Mark? It gives you the accurate job description, so then you'll know when, whether you can want to work there or not. So that's what I advise you to do. Now, Mark, I know you're a new student. I don't know the role well enough that you're interviewing for, but I've used these tactics on every interview I've ever been for. And I got to tell you, I've never been on an interview for which I didn't get hired. Mark Simpson, it's amazing how far you've come, and the others in the Go Cloud Careers classes have come in the last couple of months, thanks to Mike's emphasis on data center basics, especially his soft skills. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a true honor. Again, I got it this morning. I got a new cloud hired notification yesterday. I got to present to class one of my students who she's so special. A psychologist who just got her first cloud architect job. Mark, I'm going to be excited when you get yours. Your first cloud engineer job, because I know that's what you're looking for. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. Let's get you cloud hired, Mark. And beautiful dog, by the way. Here to win. What are your thoughts about the current economic situation and how that may affect cloud careers, architect, engineer, and DevOps? Here to win, I want you to really think about what goes on in organizations, especially in a down economy. We most likely are in a recession. We won't know if we're completely in a recession until I think it's Thursday or Friday this week where we get the GDP numbers. 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is the textbook definition of a recession. I know in the news they're trying to cover it up because we may be in such a bad recession that nobody wants to talk about it. But because panic makes things even worse. But that's the definition of a recession. It always has been. It'll be taught in every economics program, every MBA program. So let's assume we're in a recession already. Now, my students here to win are still getting hired constantly. But why are my students still getting hired? I want you to understand the organizational structure and what it takes to get hired in a down economy. And I've written a couple magazine articles here to win in major publications on getting hired in a down economy. So please make sure you follow us on LinkedIn because you're going to see a series on this. Now, people that bring money into the business, cloud architect, account manager, etc., they're revenue generating people. So in a bad economy where it's impossible to sell stuff or challenging to sell stuff, these are your most critical people in the company. So you may find in a down company, people have to hire more sales reps and more cloud architects because they're bringing money in. And as they're bringing money in, they're giving revenue to the company. Now, the cloud engineer is kind of in this unique sort of position. The architect, generally speaking, is better off always has to meet with the customers. And in many cases for the architect, it's better if they're in a geography where it's easier. For example, in New York City, you can do, for example, a lot of architectures and even not even leave the city and just meet with clients there. And if you're an architect, you're often customer facing. So the companies need them, and these are hard positions to outsource. Sales reps are also harder positions to outsource. They can be done, but it's harder. And when they outsource them, they're still high pay. Now, cloud engineering, this is a tough one. And the reason it's a tough one is cloud architects build the design, and then the cloud engineers do the work of taking the things from the network and the data center to the cloud, which is nothing more than another network and data center. So a cloud engineer is almost someone that is cutting costs for organizations. So the cloud engineers still have some mileage. But when I want you to think about it. Does it matter if your cloud engineer is in Bamenda, Cameroon, Cape Town, South Africa, Lagos, Nigeria, my village, Nepatamos in Greece, Bulgaria, or Taiwan? It's irrelevant where your cloud engineers are because they're not customer facing as a rule, and they're behind a computer. So in bad economic times, my engineers are probably still going to be fine because my engineers also have a lot of leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence, etc. And my cloud engineers have basically gone through the executive training, so they could always move into architect roles if they desired with a little bit of with some preparation. They could also move into management roles if there's vacancies. So my cloud engineers, for the most part, are going to be more likely to be okay. But unless you're a really elite cloud engineer, there's no reason to hire somebody in the US or the UK, hire globally for a fifth of the price. So that gets pretty challenging, the engineering positions. Programmers, forget it. They're going to be the first to go. We'll outsource those to plenty of parts of the world. There's no shortage of programmers. It's taught to everybody in college that basically studies anything in computers. They don't learn any cloud. They don't learn any data center. They don't learn any networking. They don't learn any security. But every career seems to get taught coding in college. So, software engineering careers I see totally gone. Database administrators, does it matter whether they're in Cape Town or Canada? Of course not. So again, database admins, gone. Now, cloud admins, again, there's no reason to bring somebody, have them in a US, UK, or an expensive place. So they get outsourced in a down economy, gone. So architects are probably your safest. Cloud engineers are the midway through. Now let's talk about DevOps. DevOps is a really good position in the down economy, but it doesn't matter where they're at, which is a problem. So what do DevOps engineers do? I could have 50 cloud admins, sitting there in the management console of the CLI configuring stuff. I could. I wouldn't, but I could. And that's why I don't ever prepare for admin roles, because there's limited need for them now. Or I could hire one really good DevOps engineer that could deploy 1,000 VPCs and all the systems in a matter of a day, as opposed to the cloud admins doing it in weeks, needing 50 of them. So, think about it. DevOps is an automation position. So in a down economy, you got cloud architects bringing money in, and DevOps, for the most part, which is also saving money. Now, the problem with DevOps is, where does it matter? Does it matter where it's from? I've got friends in India doing DevOps that are so good, they're working for a lot of US-based companies. And in a current situation, if businesses are struggling, especially if a lot of regulatory environment is pushed on the businesses, they'll just outsource for lower cost, a lot more flexibility, etc. So cloud architect roles I feel real good about. Account manager roles I feel good about. Cloud engineer roles I feel mediocre about. I think they're probably okay because they're part of this cost savings process. The DevOps background, I think it's mostly okay. Now, if we get into a really bad economy, we can assume that the architects will be there, designing, presenting, and selling, and a lot of these engineering positions will be outsourced to other parts of the world with lower cost of living, Lower cost of living means the companies can afford to pay less, and the people they pay are going to be very well paid for their world and be rich in their local world and be very thrilled for the jobs. And, for example, if I go to my village in Greece, what people would be thrilled with and how big and of a life they could live on, a third of the money in the US would make them excited. And so you got to think about this. We're a global world right now. And as things change, businesses use arbitrage, buy, sell, et cetera, in the place that makes sense. So that's what I think is going on. And our students Care to Win are getting hired constantly. Like I said, one today, one yesterday, 3 or 4 last week. So they're still getting hired. At least my architects are. My engineers will be too. As soon as they have enough time in the program, the engineering program is the name of the program. My engineers are really happy and they're really, really good. So that's how I feel about it. Robert Welch, cloud hired in Dallas, interview with Microsoft at 10 a.m. It is time to get cloud hired. That's pretty great. Almighty, hardest working guru on YouTube. Good morning, Mike and crew. Almighty, thank you so much. I will tell you, me and my team do work hard to really improve the cloud computing community. Scott H. in Cincinnati, Ohio. Fantastic. Ask your questions in the chat box. And while you're at it, please sign up for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Abo, here's the thing. For right now, we're talking about cloud architect, cloud engineering careers, and you're asking a technical question. So how do you check CPU utilization? Well, it depends what you're dealing with. If it's on a Linux system, which in most cases it is, all you have to type is the top command on your system and you'll know there. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I don't touch the technology. I'm an architect, so I design it. But CPU utilization is there. Now, how do you troubleshoot anything for errors? Well, what's going on with your MySQL cluster? That could be one of thousands and thousands of different things. So given that I'm a cloud architect and I don't touch the technology, and a cloud engineer wouldn't be doing this either, but a database administrator would. Database administration is not a career that I've had. But how do you check the CPU utilization? Well, pretty easy. You can you type the top command on any Linux system, and that will tell you CPU utilization. Mark Simpson, you've had a few interviews in the past, but this is the first one that I really feel prepared for, thanks to GoCloud Careers. What a great program, and we're just getting better. Thank you so much, Mark. My team, I know there's so many wonderful people on my team. We've got, for example, in this program, we've got Alonzo that's part of it. Chris does so many behind the things to make things work. Chow's out there making sure my students are doing great. Leo's out there making sure my students are doing great. Alonzo's out there helping my students. Eddie over there in Cameroon is out there helping my students achieve great things. We just added Abigail to the team, which I'm super excited. And Imran's been teaching some things, and boy, you should have seen the application architect that we had actually. Before that was a very good programmer that was teaching infrastructure as code and application developments and APIs. So it's been really fun, and thank you so much, Mark. I love my life. Hi, Mr. Gibbs. Please tell us why certifications won't get anybody hired. Absolutely. So I want you to understand what we do versus what covered in certifications is, for the most part, completely different. And I love my life. I'm going to take it from the architect perspective. And if you've got a different career, I'll explain it. But the architect perspective is the easiest to explain. So a cloud architect, I love my life, designs, presents, and sells. We do not touch the technology. We design, present, and sell. And what is a certification? It's a name of a proprietary service, which in most cases we can't even use, and how to configure that proprietary service, which we don't do. So I love my life. What do cloud architects really do? For example, digital transformation. And what goes into digital transformation? Asking the executives, like a management consultant at the company, what are your business goals, business pain points, business challenges? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to achieve increased revenue? Are you trying to improve your supply chain? Are you trying to promote employee collaboration, productivity? Are you trying to cut costs? Are you trying to do what? So in order to ask those questions, you need to have what's called a lot of business knowledge, which is business acumen. This is not taught in certification courses. Now, the next thing that I want to put in perspective, and then I'll teach the tech and the non-tech, but the non-tech is the main reason, but it's also the tech is the main reason as well. So the next thing is, as an architect, you're going to have to present at industry conferences with 5,000 person audiences, presenting to technical teams, presenting to executives, and presenting to management levels as well. So you need some presentation skills training, again, not even thought of in one of these roles. Next, what else is on the list? Well, we have to write. And I know that sounds strange, but we have to write at the CEO level, which is one set of writing. We also need to write for the management team. And we also need to write for the engineering team. So again, special writing and somewhere else. Now, I love my life. What we do is we do a lot of responding to RFIs, requests for information, RFPs, requests for proposals, RFQs, requests for quotes, and we have to know how to do that. And again, none of these things that I've mentioned so far is covered in certification training, not even the scratch of it. Now, the next thing is, I love my life. What happens is when we do these architecture things is we go meet with a client and we get a list of business requirements. And we need to turn those business requirements into technical solution. Now, every architecture takes a team. No one person does it, for example. So the next thing we need to do is follows. We need to go back to our company and convince the executives, the vice presidents and senior vice presidents that you need to borrow 30, 40 engineers and architects to design your project with you for the next 6 months. And you take $200,000 people for 6 months, there's a cost to that. So you're going to have to be able to justify that. Now, as cloud architects, we get involved in the sales process. So you're going to need to know how to sell. Now, at the same time, which of course, none of this stuff is covered in the certifications. At the same time in our job, we have to be able to build a business case. See, I love my life. Nobody buys $100 million or $1 billion of tech because they think it's cool. They buy it to solve a business problem. So we must build a business case that shows, Mr. Customer, Mrs. Customer, when you spend this money, it's worth it because you're going to obtain this much business value. So we have to build a business case around productivity, et cetera, whatever the case is, new revenues, et cetera. So we've got to build a business case. Now, I love my life. What we also have to do is we've got to negotiate a business deal. And that means negotiation skills. So those are the non-tech skills that aren't taught in certification, and it's impossible to get hired without them. And I'm also going to tell you also the emotional intelligence, empathy training, et cetera, that we have to do is there. And I'm also going to tell you that these skills can easily add $100,000 to your salary easily per year for the rest of your life, in addition to the regular pay. But these are the skills. Now, I love my life. Let's talk about the technical skills. A certification, even the basic ones like the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, are the name of the service and how to configure that service. But architects don't configure. And here's the thing. We can't take things from the network in the data center to the cloud if we don't know how they work. So in the certifications, they don't really talk about object storage. They talk about S3 buckets and how to configure it. But if you're going to move in organizations 5 petabytes of object storage data, and object storage isn't new. I mean, it's been around for like 30, 40 years now. So we've got to be able to talk to the people there at the customer and understand what they really have going on. What's going on with that object storage metadata? What's going on with this, and this, etc. We've got to find out from the customer, hey, these 22,000 virtual machines that you've got going on, what's going on? We've got to ask the customer about their 40,000 subnets and their 30,000 remote locations in their wide area network. We've got to ask the customer about their BGP routing policies connecting to multiple internet service providers. And none of this stuff is covered in certification. Then, realistically speaking, we need to understand how traffic performance and tuning and optimization, that's not covered in certification. And then again, there's security. In the reality, we're not going to be securing a network with WAF and Shield. We're going to need enterprise-grade functionality and enterprise-grade feature sets. So we're going to have to understand network, how to use next-generation firewalls, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, VPN concentrators. Again, none of this is covered in the certifications, including the AWS Advanced Networking or Security. They don't cover real security or real networking. They're too junior. So what you have is somebody saying design, present, and sell. We've got a job where we design, present, and sell, and someone is teaching you how to configure, which we don't do. So it's completely irrelevant. But it's worse than that. In your certification, they teach you to use Amazon Aurora. It's great. Use DynamoDB. It's great. Use Google Cloud Big Table. It's great. Use Microsoft Cosmos DB. It's great. Here's the thing. They are great, but we can't use them. Whoa, what? You just said I can't use them? Well, here's the problem. 87% of customers are multi-cloud. When you go multi-cloud, you need the same firewalls in each place. So that means you got to get something from marketplace, more industry standard. Hey, you want a database in most places? I can't use those proprietary things I just told you about, but I can use, if I need to know SQL data, is MongoDB or Apache Cassandra. And from there, you as the architect need to say, I got more read load than write load, so that's MongoDB. Or I've got more write load than read load. I guess I have to use Apache Cassandra because of the way they write it. Same thing with databases. Wait, Kinesis, streaming data, it's an incredible service. Wait, now I'm multi-cloud. I guess I got to get out of this. I got to use Apache Kafka. Again, none of this stuff is taught in certification. So certification is the name of the service and how to configure it. So the architect's doing the doctor's job, for example, asking the client about what's going on in their business, making it, baselining or examining their systems, making a diagnosis and presenting it. So imagine giving a doctor, here's a red pill, here's a yellow pill, here's a green pill. No, we're not going to tell you the type of drugs they are. We're not going to teach you how they work, but prescribe them. Here's how to do it without teaching the doctor how to diagnose. It'd be insanity. So that's why certifications won't get anybody hired in today's world, except for the CCIE. The CCIE does get people network engineer jobs because that actually is a deep enough exam to actually do things. But put it into context, I spent 75,000 pages, read 75,000 pages to do my CCIE 25 years ago. I spent $40,000 on training and equipment to do it. I can put, AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and Associate together in the same book for less than 500 pages. That's why these basic certifications don't do anything. Great question, though. Mike, how do you do a background check for a company for its culture? Well, Priyanka, it's pretty easy. If you want to figure out what's going on in the company's culture, if it's a publicly traded company, they're going to have news constantly. See what they're talking about in the news. Now, also, what they talk about and look at what they do. For example, Cisco said it cared about its employees. And when I worked there, Cisco cared about its employees. I heard that I can tell you, our CEO, if a family member got sick in a certain location, I heard stories about him flying his personal plane on his own dime to go pick people up. Well, yeah, you heard it. When soldiers were sent overseas, I was told by some soldiers that they received a phone call that their full salary would be paid while they're overseas so that they didn't have to struggle on their military pay, which was different than their Cisco pay. So you find that, you hear that, so you can easily do this. Priyanka, the good news is we have LinkedIn. Employees post stuff. So we can see what people post. We can see what people post on Facebook. A little bit of cyber stalking, and we can find out a lot. But read the company's annual reports. Look at what the analysts are saying about the company. When you read the annual reports, if it's a publicly traded company, there's analysts from all companies that are doing it. Look at what industry players are saying about it. Look at what Gartner is saying about the company. There's so much data out there. So Google is your best friend in any career. Google it. Cyberstalk people on social media. Look at the company's positions. Look at their products. Are they in alignment? Look what people say and really pay attention. For example, we have a really great product going on right now that's exceptional. It's the best in the world. That means the person doesn't believe what they're telling you and they're lying to you. We have the best product in the world and we really care. It's obvious they care. So look for things that don't make sense. And also, Priyanka, this is really where your knowledge comes to play. When someone says, for example, one of my students said, hey, I watched the news and it said this. And I said, I said, I watch all news. And then I look at the available evidence and make something myself because everybody's got an agenda. So watch what the people are doing. Watch them talk. Read their body language. I teach this to all my students, obviously. Look at the numbers. Look at the financial statements. Look at what employees are saying. Do a Google search and you'll really find it. You'll be able to find so much more than you can't even imagine. Shoot for your stars. You've gotten your SAP certification, but found it difficult to relate what you've learned to others. Therefore, you're not confident applying for jobs. Shoot for the stars. The AWS SAP certification is nothing. It's the name of the service and how to configure it. Now, I know you worked hard to get it. So That's what we say. It's between 5 and 9% of everything that you need to know. So there's nothing in that exam that's ever going to make it you be able to explain it to others. Because for one reason, in that training protocol, they've obfuscated what's actually going on under the hood. So there's nothing in there that's going to help you. If I ask an AWS certified person to tell me about object storage, they say S3 in a bucket. That will end the interview. I mean, they need to know. So what I need you to do, shoot for the stars, is realize that what you've read in there, you're not going to be able to communicate anything. What you've read in that certification is like the icing on the cake. I view certification as this. You build a cake, and the cake is your foundation. It's your knowledge. It's your strength. It's your everything. The icing on the cake is helpful for you to get an interview. So shoot for the stars. I need you to learn the cloud, and you won't learn it there. So for example, if we were talking about an organization's wide area network, I need you to know what are the options. When do I use a VPN? When do I use a direct connection? When do I create it? Why would I create a link aggregation group? When and why should I use software-defined network? When should I use a SASE environment? When should I use Ethernet over MPLS versus a private line, etc.? You need to know the why, and that stuff isn't covered here. So for example, I'll talk about object storage. Now, what happens normally is this. In the AWS certification, they tell you object storage is you create a bucket and you create an IAM policy. And it's really, really cool, and it's cheap. That's what they teach you in the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Here's how to set up an ARD, and here's again, junior level engineering. Not even engineering, I'd say more cloud admin. What they really need to hear is object storage is a type of storage area network, meaning it's network-based storage, where data is broken down into an object. And I'm going to tell you how to be able to answer this. Now, when the data is broken down into objects, some magical things occur. Most specifically, each object has metadata. Now, what is metadata? Metadata is data about the data. Now, because we have metadata, we can do some extremely impressive things in object storage. We can run SQL type queries to find things. We can look at part of an object through something like a range get by being able to use the metadata, saying, I only need this part, not this part, which saves us a network bandwidth. Now, object storage is not real storage. It can't be mounted by a server, and it can't be used by a server, and it's got a lot of idiosyncrasies, but it's still part of a total storage solution. Let's talk about why object storage can't be used by traditional computer systems. And it's only good for backup and archival purposes, software distribution of content, static website hosting, and nothing else. And here's the reason why. Object storage is write once, read many times, meaning it's perfect for a photo of my cat Cindy that everybody in the world wants to see. Perfect for that. But it can't be used by computers for the following reason. With object storage, anytime we have even the slightest modification of anything, it'll create a new version of that object, which is going to take up storage space. So let's take a server, shoot for the stars, that's got 2 terabytes of DRAM in it, moderately sized server in today's world. Now, if that server is going to have something called a swap file, which is virtual memory, and that swap file most likely will change 100,000 times per minute or more. So if we've got a server with 2 terabytes of DRAM and we've got a 3 terabyte swap file, if we have 100,000 of them per minute versions, we're going to be paying hundreds of thousands a month, if not millions a month, per 1 minute of storage for 1 minute of action. So we can't use that. So therefore, object storage is not mounted by servers, but it's perfect for backup and archival purposes, etc. So this is what we're really talking about in terms of knowledge. Now, none of this is covered in certification, shoot for the stars. Now, if you want to train with us, we'll train you. But if not, here's what you need to do. You need to know everything in that basic certification is nothing compared to what the employer needs, even though it was a hard exam to pass. So if you're not with me, here's what you need to learn. And if you're with me, you're good to go. If you're not with me, you need to understand BGP, what it is, what it works, how to tune it. Then you will also need to learn interior gateway protocol to some degree, such as OSPF. Above that, you're going to need to master subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, route aggregation, etc. Above that, you're going to need to understand switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, rapid spanning tree, link aggregation, group port channel, ether channel, etc., those kind of things. Then you will need to know WAN technologies. When do you use IPsec tunnels? When do you use a private line? When do you use software-defined networking? When do you use an IPsec tunnel versus an SSL-based VPN? So there's that. What is ARP and proxy ARP and DNS and DHCP? How do you tune that and optimize it? Because architects is all about the design and optimization. So right there, I've given you about 10,000 pages of reading to get you your goals. Now remember, the Certified Solution Architect Professional is 500, but I've given you at least 10,000 pages of networking knowledge, which is minimum knowledge to be able to migrate the network over. Now next, we have to talk about the cloud. So shoot for the stars. You have to understand something to move it, and you have to understand something to explain it. Like Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you just don't know it well enough. And that's why when you take a certification course and you see the PowerPoint slides and you're blah, 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 it's because that person got 7 to 10x AWS certified and spread themselves so thin and has no knowledge of the material they're teaching, none whatsoever. So the students don't know either. But on the data center side, what must you know? You must really understand servers and server virtualization. My course, you're going to get it. You're even going to work with them. But if not, don't worry. Go to the VMware website, the KVM QEMU website, subsites, the Citrix Zen website, read a couple hundred pages, and then you'll understand virtualization. Now, next, you're going to be dealing with containers and container orchestration. So how are you going to learn that? You go to the Docker page, you go to the Kubernetes page, you go to the OpenShift page, read a couple hundred pages, and poof, you're good to go. Or take my course. We'll teach you the things that you need to know, the critical elements. Now, let's get involved into storage. You can go to the Dell EMC website and the IBM website, and after a couple thousand pages of reading, you'll understand storage well enough to be an architect and explain it, or take my course. Now, then what's going to happen, you're going to need to understand databases. You're going to have some knowledge of relational databases, etc. Get that information from Microsoft, Oracle, MySQL. Read it. Postgres, MariaDB. Read it, and then you're going to know databases. Next, on the security world, we're going to be using next-generation firewalls, intrusion detection prevention system, some kind of VPN concentrator kind of things, and then go read that. So go to the Cisco website, the Fortinet website, the Palo Alto website, the Checkpoint website, the Juniper website, all of them. A couple thousand pages more, and now you're going to have what you need. So if you're not with me, you need to read a good 25,000 pages on this material to be able to understand it. That's what you need to do. That's how you can do it. So take a course like mine or learn it, truly build it. And then you'll be able to apply, and you'll be confident for jobs. But also, make sure you work with someone to, if you want to be an architect, teach architecture, because again, that's not covered as system design. So those are the things that you need to use. And if you'd like us to train you, we'd love to. Right now, you can have 30% off and use our coupon code POTENTIAL. But that's the disconnect between the certifications and the job, and that's why nobody can explain it. And I wanted to prove it so what I did before I started this company was as follows. I interviewed 1,000 AWS certified people, and I could not find a single person that knew how to design a system. Not a single one. Now, I knew lots of people that knew DevOps and SysOps, and they were great hands-on and knew Python and Terraform, which is great if you're a cloud engineer, but an architect. And I couldn't find a single one that was hireable. That's why we do our free boot camps, to at least make sure that people aren't paying for that kind of training, because, I don't want anybody to be subjected to those PowerPoint slides with audio backup taught by somebody that has no idea how the tech works, because here's the thing, then their students don't know how it works either. So that's why we do what we do. That's why we give away free ebooks to help all of you get cloud hired. Man, I want to be specialized in cloud infrastructure. What should I pay more attention to? What is included in the infrastructure specialty? Well, networking and data center stuff. So infrastructure especially, heavy BGP knowledge. Heavy BGP knowledge. Now, also in this case, you're going to need to be a heavy knowledge of wide area networking types. Heavy knowledge. Heavy knowledge of IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting. Heavy knowledge. Almost like CCIE level knowledge, realistically speaking. Heavy knowledge of traffic engineering. Heavy knowledge of switching and all the switching protocols. Heavy, heavy, heavy knowledge. Heavy knowledge in all the networking protocols, for example. heavy knowledge on load balancers, heavy knowledge, heavy onto like dealing with next generation firewalls, etc. Even though that's the security people, we still need to do that because we're going to be dealing with remote access in the infrastructure level, which is often done on firewalls being used as VPN concentrators. Infrastructure is all about the network, and the network. And also, the underlying server infrastructure could be considered infrastructure. Like I said, the load balancers, or it could all just be networking. So what's included? Networking. So last night you had an Imran on my talk show or our talk show. He's an infrastructure architect. You deal with me, I'm an infrastructure architect. But and what kind of infrastructures have we designed? High availability systems, high performance systems. So this is about knowing your multi-cloud knowledge, because an infrastructure architect would never allow a single cloud. So this means you need to understand the network and the data center to the nth degree, especially the underlying network. And I train a lot of them. They do great, but really when it's about networking, think of it as a CCIE that works on the cloud. Chris, you can go to the next one. And if you've got questions, please ask us. We want to help you. Enoch, will the knowledge from your training be sufficient to start a cloud consulting business? Enoch, I don't think anybody should do consulting that's not worked for companies for several years. So the whole point of consulting, and look, all cloud architects are consulting, is to help an organization. Now, when I mentioned to you before, we cloud architects meet with a client, we ask some questions, and we build an architecture by going to a group of 40 or 50 people together working to design something. So Enoch, if you're going to be able to hire 40 or 50 people to be part of your team, then sure, start a cloud consulting business. But if you don't have that team, you really can't do architecture work. Architecture work is leading a bunch of specialists together to create something good. And if you try to do this without the team, you're not going to be an architect. Now, the reality is this. My people are getting hired every single day of the week, or almost every day of the week, and we love that. But my people are getting hired because they've got a good special set of skills, and my people know that they get hired by AWS constantly. I've got people in Cisco. I've got people in Bearing Point. I've got people in Capgemini. I've got people in Deloitte. I've got people in Accenture. I've got people in, you name the company, JP Morgan Chase. I could go on, and I think it's Cali. I could go on and go on. I've got people working everywhere, but they've got a team. And realistically speaking, it's going to take you a couple of years before you're ready to go out on your own. And I want you to understand, even if you try to go on your own, here, I'm a cloud architect. I'm consulting with my business. I've never worked for anybody before. What customer is going to be willing to pay you? And what context are you going to have? Now, I want you to show you, I've worked in industry for 25 years. Yo, Mr. CEO, it's Mike. Hey, how are you? You need any consulting? Yes, I do. Now, I go to the next CEO. Hey, it's been a long time. How's your business going? Mike, I really need you. Hey, I've got some time. So that's really what we're talking about, is you got to have the Rolodex or the contact list to have your own business. How are you going to get customers? So really, Enoch, before you go start your own company, you've got to be great at what you do. In order to be great, you've got to solve your customers' problems. You've got to make your customers' business run best. And I don't feel like without a couple of years experience working for a big provider, like all my students seem to work for, you'll be able to really know. I mean, how many businesses have you consulted to in the past? So I don't think we're going to be good enough, nor anybody in the entire world would be good enough. And I don't care if you took our course along with a Harvard MBA and went to MIT and then IIT after that, and then said, here, I'm ready to go start my own business. You still wouldn't have the skill. So we do better than anybody else out there in terms of getting people hired and getting people prepared for the job. But to start a business, I think you really need to be able to work 100% independently. Now, Enoch, after 25 years, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't work independently. I meet with a customer, I ask some questions, I reach out to the executives of my company, and I build a team. And I don't build a little team, I build a big team I'll bring in 2 cloud network architects, 3 cloud security architects, 1 IAM architect. I'll bring in some big data architects, some DBAs, the database administrators. I'm going to go bring in some cloud engineers. I'm going to bring in some DevOps engineers. I'm going to bring in some security engineers. I'm going to bring some storage engineers or architects in. And together, we're going to build the perfect design for my customer. See, I know the secret. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And the reality is, when I get together with my 25 years experience and I build a team of 30 people that each have 20 years experience, my architecture has 600 years of experience, which is going in it, which is my architecture don't fail. I've learned after 25 years how much I still don't know. After reading 1,000 pages a day every year for years straight. After all of that, I still know how much there is to know. So I wouldn't do it unless I could hire 50 people. Now, do I occasionally think about starting a cloud consulting business with all the cloud architects I have and all the background I have? Yes, because I've got the context, I've got the Rolodex, and I've got the employees to do it. So keep it in my mind, but I don't really think that you can truly go out and start your own business in something you haven't worked in yet, in anything, and still be an asset to your customers. Remember, to be successful, it's not about selling something to somebody. It's about making that customer successful. So I think you need experience making people successful before you think you can do it on your own. Good morning, Mike. You were wondering what the career progression of a cloud architect looks like. And you have to realize what the cloud architect position is. It's typically a director level position, as is in most companies. So if an architect is good and they want to become an IT director or a VP, they can pretty much easily do it. If what you're dealing with is following: someone with extremely good executive presence, someone with extremely good leadership skills, someone with extremely good emotional intelligence, someone with really good sales skills, someone with incredible levels of business acumen, CXO relevancy, etc. That person's already doing management, leadership. So it's pretty easy to get a director of IT directly out of a cloud architect job. Now there are some people, if they're enterprisey architects enough like me, that could easily get a CTO position as well. Now, again, how do I go about things differently? Last night you heard a really good conversation. If not, I encourage you to listen to it between Imran and me. Imran is both an engineer and a great technical architect. If you see me, I'm like an executive architect. I'm more the enterprise architect. So for me, I get those senior level roles that offered to me constantly, where Imran would be placed on more technical architect roles because that's the game he's playing. Now, Imran, we could tune him if he wanted to focus exclusively on the executive piece, have him forget a little bit of that incredible techness that he has, and all of a sudden he's an executive on his way to be the CTO. But he loves the tech more than anybody ever met, and he's darn good at it, and he's incredibly impressive, and he likes to feel it. And that's why, we need both sets of people that are out there. Some of us like to focus on the leadership. Some of us like to focus on being in between the tech person and the leadership. And it doesn't matter where we're at. We can all play to our strengths. And there's room for all of us. And that's what we need, a diverse team of people with wide variety of backgrounds, experiences, lessons learned. Somebody that went to one company. There was an American company, that gave up two of the biggest two of the biggest tech innovations in the world. This one tech company invented Ethernet and gave it away because they thought it was worthless. 40 years later, it's the dominant networking platform in the world. The same company also invented the graphical operating system and the mouse. And their boardroom looked at it and said, who would ever want to use something called the mouse? They then gave it to Apple, and it became the foundation of the Macintosh. And the same graphical user interface was kind of used by Microsoft to make Windows. And it all came from a company that gave away those two big innovations. So I feel like this kind of stuff happens when everybody thinks the same, walks the same, talks the same, they're the same person. But you get a bunch of people, and they're there, and it's a wide variety. So there's room for us all, G. But for these positions, really, 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 I want you to get heavy on the, what's the word I'm looking for? The executive presence, leadership skills, emotional intelligence. And you may go straight from cloud architect to VP of IT or to CTO, and if not, You could do the enterprise architect role, or you could go cloud architect, IT director, VP of IT, etc. Any of these places would get you there. So there's a lot of ways you could do it, G. I don't know enough about you. I think I know who your name is, but I'm not 100% sure. But, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Sorry, my window shut off all the beeping that was occurring. That is a great question, G. So for any of these positions, leadership, more leadership, executive presence, communication skills, business acumen, more business acumen. Great question. Chris, you want to go to the next one? And in the chat box, ask us your question so we can help you get to your goals. Eric, you'll be interviewing for cloud-related jobs within your organization in a couple of months. Do you have any additional insights or thoughts specific to the scenario? Eric, I don't know which cloud-related jobs you're applying for. The job of a cloud architect is 100% different than a cloud engineer, which is 100% different than a DevOps engineer, which is 100% different than a cloud security person, which is 100% different than a cloud network person. So, Eric, if you could tell me what job you're interested in interviewing for in a couple months, I could tell you that. But, you're interested in relating to cloud jobs. It's kind of like, I like to call it the airport question. When people say, what do I need to do for the cloud? And I say, well, where do you want to go? And it's the same thing with an airport. You're kind of asking me the same question of Mike, which airplane should I get on? And I'd say, Eric, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Athens? Do you want to go to Istanbul? Do you want to go to Paris? Do you want to go to London? Do you want to go to Brisbane? Do you want to go to Sydney? Do you want to go to Sao Paulo or Rio? That will determine which airplane you jump on. Same thing with cloud jobs. They're all different. And they're about as equally different as all these destinations that the airplane could take you to. So the key is, what cloud job would you actually like? If I know which cloud job you can like, please tell me. Then I can tell you things that will help you. But I can't tell you what will help you until I know what your goal is. So please tell me your goal, and I'd love to help you. And why is this so important, Eric? Let me just think about this for another minute or so. What happens, and we see it every day, is when people don't know which job to learn, to go to, what they do is they learn a little bit in pieces of 20 different careers. And then they get all these certifications and other people's careers. And here's what happens. I'm the hiring manager, and I need to figure out who you are to see if I want to spend time talking to you. Now, as a hiring manager, I know that if you spread yourself too thin, you can't do anything, and I don't want to waste my time. So, because I can't hire you. So realistically speaking, then, I want you to think about the value of a brand. People ask me, Mike, what are you? I know two things. I know architecture, leadership, which is part of architecture, architect skills, and Mike used to practice internal medicine, so he knows a lot about that too. I don't know anything else. I mean, that's my world. Getting people hired and designing, presenting, and selling solutions and solving people's problems, whether it be healthcare problems or business problems. That's the only three things I know, and I've got a brand for it. Now, when you think about a brand and you think Ferrari, if you know what it is, you think Lamborghini, you know what it is. Why do you think they're so expensive? And then you take some other brand and you don't know what they are, because a little of this, a little of this, a little of this. And that's okay too. Do you think Chevy costs as much as a Ferrari? No. Could GM make a car that's just as good as a Ferrari? Of course they can. Of course they can. But the brand is different. The brand of Apple is so much more valuable than somebody else's brand. Heck, I paid 3 times more for a Mac because I wanted it, and part of it was the brand. Simple, fun, easy to use. So that's the brand. And you know what their device is? Simple and fun and easy to use. I don't need to call tech support. And I don't feel like troubleshooting things myself. It just works most of the time. So there's that. So I need you to have the brand that's exactly the career that you desire, because it'll get you hired, it'll get you paid more, and it'll make sure your interviews go well. Because if you have the wrong stuff on your interview, they're going to interview you and all the other stuff, not your job. So kind of keep that in the back of my arc. And if you give me the information, tell me what your destination is, then I can help you get on the right plane. Talk about destinations. It was really hilarious. I used to travel so much. Even though I lived in Princeton, New Jersey, I used to give directions to English people at the London Heathrow Airport on which terminal, etc. It was kind of hilarious. I used to travel so much. Ask us your questions and give us a hashtag Cloud Hired, a like, hit the bell if you're enjoying yourself, subscribe, that kind of thing. Join us on Thursday for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And if you want your first cloud architect job, or your first solution architect job, or your first cloud engineer job, sign up for our Cloud Architect Career Development Program to be a cloud architect, or a cloud engineer career development program to be a cloud engineer. Now's the time at 30% off. Chris, let's bring in some more questions. Priyanka, in the interest of time, can I just focus on the fundamentals you have listed instead of preparing? Look, I'm going to tell you right now, nobody gets hired ever because of a certification. I'm going to say this again. No one gets hired because of a certification. Hey, I'm going to say it again. No one gets hired for a certification. Priyanka, I have had people hired with 0 certifications. I've had AWS hire my students with a cloud practitioner. I've had my students get hired without college degrees. I've had a high school dropout get hired as a cloud architect. Now, here's the thing. Nobody cared about their certification. These were some of the smartest, brightest, motivated people you want. Is it necessary to interview? No. I know lots of network engineers and network architects that have gone there straight with 0 certifications, and they got certified when they were there. But what did they have? Competency. Competency. And, it's not cloud fundamentals that are going to get you hired at all. It's network and data center fundamentals. Now, when I just listed the storage, the block storage, the object storage, the file storage, all of this is 30 to 40-year-old technology, all of it. Now, what happened is we had these physical data centers, which are still, in today's world, the highest performance that you can get. And then we have cloud providers that have decided to sell you access to their data centers. So if you only focus on cloud fundamentals, you'll never be an architect because you'll only know bits and pieces of the cloud, but you won't understand the job. What is the job? Take the stuff from the network and data center to the cloud. Now, if you only learn the cloud, you don't know anything. You have to know the network and data center to learn the cloud. I want you to think about this. So I was at a friend's house very recently. His wife made some samosas, some dal, some bindi, and it was really great, along with some tandoori chicken. And I enjoyed it thoroughly. Now, if his wife didn't know what lentils were, had no idea what ghee was, had no idea what is in naan, she couldn't have made the naan. At the same time, if she didn't know what is okra or the spices, she could not have made the bindi for me. And she sure couldn't have made the tandoori chicken if she didn't know what the chicken was or have spices. So what happens if you just learn the cloud services, you can't do the job, which is taking the stuff and moving it to the cloud. So imagine someone cooking without knowing what the ingredients were. It can't be done. So when you learn the cloud, you're basically learning, you're not learning what those ingredients are. You're just, you're learning those ingredients. You have to learn what those ingredients are and how to put the pieces together in a recipe to be an architect. That's the key. It's not just knowing the spice. It's knowing what all the individual components are, how those work, and how to add them together. So it's a matter of adding the parts together. That's architecture. And you can't learn architecture by coding or configuring the kind of things that are in certification, because that's not part of our job. So it's really about having the knowledge of what you're doing. It was about a year ago, a director from AWS came to one of my class calls in the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and he said, the reason I love my students so much is the following. They don't just know the name of the service and how to configure that, which is not our job. They know how to sell, how to design, with the executive presence, the communication skills, the leadership skills, the real fundamentals, which is the network and data center, which is the cloud. Priyanka, the cloud's not new. I mean, I know the marketing collateral makes it sound exciting. First cloud I worked on was in 1996. It was the Frame Relay Cloud. Around the same time, maybe it was 1997, I worked on the ISDN cloud. After that cloud, I worked on the ATM cloud around 1999. Around 2000, I worked on the BGP RFC 2547 cloud. Around 2001, 2002, I worked on the VPLS cloud. And then all of us were exploring under consulting to cloud providers in terms of how to build their clouds for years. So we know the cloud. It's not new. But if you don't know the traditional environment, which is what we deal with every day as the cloud architect, that network and data center, we can't do anything. Because how do you take something from one place and move it to another place if you don't even know what you're taking? You can't. You just can't do it. So you don't need the certification. You need knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. And it's not just cloud fundamentals. Now, if you only studied the network and data center and the cloud fundamentals and didn't have the sales skills, the business acumen, the leadership skills, the executive presence, the executive writing skills, the CXO relevancy, the knowledge of how to respond to requests for information, requests for proposals, requests for queries, and how to negotiate a $1 billion deal, which is very different than other things, you still can't get hired. So getting an interview is easy. Getting hired is not. I've got students that get multiple interview requests per day. Robert Welch is here, and he gets 5+ interview requests per day every day. Now, of course, Robert Welch maximized my LinkedIn and resume tips. Other people don't get as many, but they still get plenty. But that's really the key. You've got to know the whole job. And because getting an interview and being rejected on the interview isn't any good. I mean, I could tune your resume right now without knowing anything and get you an interview anywhere. But it's succeeding in the interview. You don't want to go in an interview and not get hired, because what happens is you damage your brand. I don't want to talk to that person again. So the key is not to get the interview. Getting an interview, like Robert Welch says, yes, I do. When I said he gets at least 5 interview requests per day, getting an interview is nothing. Getting hired is the combination of the right knowledge and the right skills and the right brand. So you don't need a certification to get interviewed at AWS. Not at all. Got students getting hired with 0 certifications. Delroy Batt recently, you can see his video, associate degree in college. He got a wonderful cloud security architect job, no experience whatsoever, no cloud certifications whatsoever. And when I asked him, could you afford a brand new single family home with 4 bedrooms and 2 brand new Mercedes on your current salary? And he said, yes, because he's got the right skills, not the wrong ones. I'm thrilled to answer more questions. Great questions. I love the way you're thinking. Hi, Mark. Hi, would you help us get hired remotely? What website connections do you recommend? Mark, my students don't have to apply for jobs at all. People bombard them and harass them with, can I hire you? Can I hire you? Can I interview you? Our people don't need to apply for jobs. There's no website I recommend. It's about building your brand. Building your brand. Right now, if you didn't see another Apple commercial for the next year, would you know what an iPhone is? Would you be considering buying one? Yes, because you know exactly what it is. So you've got to have the right brand. You've got to have the right resume. All that's like bait. Like if you wanted to go fishing, somebody puts a worm or a little fish on the hook, you stick it in the ocean as bait for the bigger fish. Your resume is bait. If done correctly, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, whatever blogs and things you write, like a lot of my students actually co-author books with me and co-author blogs with me, etc. I get them involved in big projects so they can get more of their name out there, but it's a brand. So we got lots of students getting hired remotely, lots of students getting hired because we help them tune their resume. And then, Mark, we make sure that once they get an interview, they don't lose the interview. Mark, no one should ever go on more than 3 interviews and not be hired. And if they've gone on more 3 interviews and not gotten hired, there is a problem. The problem could be in one of the following: competency, attitude, communication skills, sales skills, executive presence. One of those things, interviewing skills. So, that's the key. It's not website connections. Granted, we've got hundreds of recruiters in network that reach out to me every single day. Mike, do you know anybody I can hire? Every day. But it's not that. It's my students don't even need to. Robert Welch gets 5 to 15 interview requests per day. He's on the exceptional side there. But, the key is getting people to reach out to you to want to hire you is nothing with the right branding. It's knowing what to have on your resume. Knowing that if you want to be an architect, don't have DevOps and SysOps certifications on there or developer stuff, because it's going to make you look like everything other than an architect. It's making sure that your resume screams expert in your field, not an expert in somebody else's job, which is like the majority of what I was saying. So, Mark, we can easily help you do that in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, our Cloud Engineer Career Development Program, easily. But that's the kind of thing we do in our private programs. Good question. Mr. Gibbs, how does your Cloud Architect program work? What are the differences between the architect and the engineer program? Very simply, architect program makes you a cloud architect. Engineering program makes you a cloud engineer. The skills I love my life are extremely opposite for these careers. It's no different than a doctor and a lawyer. They are that far apart from each other, that far apart. Now, what I will tell you is in both of the programs, we do the following. In the programs, we have live classes 3 times per week via Zoom. And this is not, this is via Zoom. So we will have live classes where we'll work on projects together in live classes. I will interview the students on some of these classes. We may be working on resumes on some of these classes, and my students will be doing real projects on these classes, real world work, not synthetic stuff. Now, in between these live classes on both programs, the students will have projects. They'll be working on their interview. They'll be working on their elevator pitch. They'll be working on either architectures or engineering things based upon which program they're in. They'll be building career plans, which my team will help with. They'll be working on their resume, which my team will help with. They'll be doing videos to prepare them for interviews, which my team will help with. I mean, you name it, we'll be doing it. And then my students will submit assignments via Slack and get feedback on them, just like a real class. Now, there's a lab component, which is as well. Now, architects don't touch the code, but somewhere along the line, somebody's going to want to know. And I'll talk about the technical differences between them in a minute. Now, architects don't touch technology. We design, present, and sell. But someone's going to want to know if you have cloud knowledge and if you've ever touched it. So, sure, we will do about 25 basic AWS labs, and we'll teach about 25 Azure labs. And we teach, that well above the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional and the Azure Solution Architect Expert. We provide training for both of that, but that's only intro training. We go above and beyond. So that's about 40 hours of our 500 hours. But in our labs, we do stuff that matters. See, here's the thing. In our programs, I will have you do things like building a cloud from scratch, working with server virtualization, building containers, working with firewalls and VPN concentrators. My students will build Active Directory servers. My students will build things. And then my students will build a cloud. All of them will build a cloud. And whether it be a cloud architect or cloud engineer, once you've designed and built your own cloud, you actually know what you're doing. And you're a cloud architect. So there's that. Next, what are the differences? Since a cloud architect's job is to design, present, and sell, and we never touch the technology, the Cloud Architect program needs to be focused extremely on leadership skills, executive communication skills, CXO relevancy, scale skills, ROI modeling, etc., 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 etc. That's what's in our program, in our architect one. Know how to sell, how to present, how to write for executives. My students are designing architectures in the architect program. They're doing the same job as an architect, and they get hired because of it. Now, the Cloud Engineer program is designed to produce cloud engineers. Now, cloud architects design, present, and sell, but cloud engineers build. So if you think about a building, an architect designs the building, whether it's going to, how many windows it's going to have, how tall it's going to have, whether you need waterfalls, lush gardens, how many pools, etc. That's the building architect. Now, the building architect doesn't hammer nails, use a saw, use a screwdriver. That's not what they do. They design, present, and sell, just like the cloud architect. Now, what happens in the building world is once the customer says, yes, I want this architecture, they hire a construction crew. You know what happens in the cloud world? After we cloud architects design, present, and sell the solution, we hire a construction crew. Who are they called? Cloud engineers. Cloud engineers are the builders. So my cloud engineers have to get deep experience building systems. So my cloud engineers are learning a lot of building because that's relevant to their job, not the architect's job, the engineer job. Now, the cloud engineers are going to be doing a lot of systems administration, and most of that's going to be on Linux. So the cloud engineer needs rock solid Linux skills because they're going to be building things, automating things. Now, the cloud engineer is going to need to automate, which means the cloud engineer needs to know Python and they need to write bash scripting. Again, the architects don't need any of this because it's a different career. Now, a cloud engineer is going to be coding, configuring too, but they're also going to be deploying some Terraform infrastructure as code. So the cloud engineers need this. So as you can see, I've got one program that's based on architects designing, presenting, and selling solutions. And one for engineers is based on building solutions and tuning solutions and optimizing solutions. And that's why we need specific training. It's no different than an Olympic gymnast trains differently than an Olympic swimmer. It's a different sport. And those are the main differences between our programs. We will get you hired in either case, but we're going to teach you the skills to be a master at your job. What's the biggest problem we have with architects? They've got all this cloud engineering stuff on the resume. And here's the problem. When you want an architect and you see an engineering resume, you can't hire the person because it's a different set of skills. I like to say it this way. So I love animals. Love them, love them, love them. I love cats, I love dogs, and I love birds. Now, I went to the pet rescue place with the intention to buy a cat. Why? I wanted to make my wife happy. When I got there, there was a beautiful golden retriever. It was the sweetest thing. It came over to me and licked me, sat down next to me. I was petting this golden retriever. Truth be told, I loved it. But I was there to buy a cat. So I bought a cat home for my wife. The cat actually never left my lap, sat on my lap straight for like 6 weeks straight. The cat sleeps on me every night, and I'm so thrilled to have the cat. But the point is, if I wanted a cat, I got a cat, not that beautiful dog. And when it comes to employers, that if they want an architect, they hire an architect. They want an engineer, they hire an engineer. And you must have the skills for the job that you're applying for. So we train you to be an expert at your job, not somebody else's. Great question. And I'm happy to answer more questions if you desire. And right now, it's 30% off using coupon code potential, either program. But just buy one program, not both, because it's no benefits for you to have skills in somebody else's career. Effie to me is cloud hired. Eddie Patrick cloud hired. Mr. Businessman, Go Cloud Careers cloud hired. I'm loving that. Charles Rosario cloud hired. Yes. Leo Paredes cloud hired. Eric cloud hired. Yeah, let's get you cloud hired, Eric. Abigail Marks cloud hired times 100. I'm loving this, loving this, loving this. Charles. Hey, Mike, after getting cloud hired, is there a need to work for certifications or the work experience? Charles, what matters is your competency. Competency. Now, there are some companies like AWS that after they hire my people, they say, here, let's do these couple of certifications. But they pay for it, and they send you to real certification training. And trust me, it's not going to be that stuff that's out there, which you can purchase for $10 to $50, where it's going to be PowerPoint slides with blah, 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 blah. Somebody that's 10x AWS certified that doesn't even know what they don't know about anything, because you can't spread yourself too thin. I know architects and good architects earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with zero certifications. Zero certifications. There's that. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Zero certification. What matters is your capabilities. That's what matters. So Charles, in one of these positions, it's the following. When I ask hiring managers, they say, Mike, honestly, with tech people, if I could find someone that just knows how to do their job that I can tolerate, I'd probably hire them. Now, and then I say, well, what if you can find someone that's emotionally intelligent, got good executive presence, sales skills, good leadership skills, business acumen? They're like, Mike, send them all to me. I need them all. So it's never about certifications. Now, I do like to see 2 certifications generally on a router, on a resume, like 1 professional certification and maybe the cloud and 1 on something else. But if you're getting hired without it, don't worry about it. It's experience that matters more. Nobody really cares about the certifications other than the certification providers. And somehow they've confused people into believing that, here, I'm going to get all these certifications, I'm going to get hired. And Charles, that's why we created our program, because I saw certification providers were literally doing this, recommending people learn everybody else's job. And then I interviewed 1,000 of them, and none of them even knew how to do the job. I'm not a big fan of certifications. Look, I have a couple. I did the CCA, and that helped me, the Cisco Certified Internet Expert. That helped me a lot. But in those days, certifications really meant something. Why did they mean more? Well, every day now I get somebody sending me a message on LinkedIn. Hey, 100% pass rate. Do you want this exam? I'm like, no. And every day you'll see people they're even willing to take the exams for you. There's 3 or 4 websites where you can go where you can buy a copy of the identical exams. And everybody knows it. And what people say is, I don't want a paper certification. I want somebody that knows something. So once you've got knowledge, capabilities, work experience, you don't need any certification. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Good question, though. Please keep asking your questions. Abigail Marks. Mike isn't kidding. There are many opportunities for growth. Even editing and contributing to designing of Google, AWS, Azure text exam books. Yeah, so here's the thing. I've got 50 of my students volunteering in a wonderful program called Cloud Heroes Africa. And inside of this program, what do? We help tutor people in Africa learn basic cloud computing. 50 of my students are there, so now they can take cloud architect instructors. I have people right now writing a book on passing the Google Professional Cloud Architect exam. Why? Because they're going to be there and they're going to be published authors. I had about 50 people from my team work on an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional exam. Exactly for a reason. Why? They're now published. So I've got students co-authoring blogs with us. I've got students becoming instructors and things. I've got my students everywhere. And part of our program is building your brand. And part of the brand we like to build are problem solvers. And good cloud architects should be able to educate others, be customers. So I want to make sure my students have that. And we have a massive community of people spread throughout the world, probably 1,200 people strong right now. Last time I checked. And I've got students all over the world helping each other. They get together in local cities. They practice their interviews on each other. They practice negotiating with others. They practice designing architecture together. They build clouds together. I mean, seriously. It's a ball for them. The reality is I think I've hired 6 people for my program so far because I love them so much and they were so good that they're now part of my company. But that's the key. We will give you opportunities to do so many things. So many things. So many things. That's what we actually do. So we'd love to be there. We'd love to work with you in any way, shape, or form. But we work hard to make sure our students work as architects, collaborate as architects. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to have my cloud architects do a project with my cloud engineers, just like the real world. And that way, everybody learns how to do exactly their job and becomes a master of it. Sorry if there's any landscaping in the background. I live in Florida, and there's always somebody cutting somebody's grass. Chris, if you want to bring in the next one, and please ask your questions. Hey, Mike, I know you're retired. What was your salary at the peak of your career? Hakeem, it's hard to say. So I was earning about $100 an hour in 1997 as a CCIE, or not, around 2001. So, that was 40, 50, 60-hour week. So for the most part, that was about $300,000 about 20 years ago, which was worth about $600,000 or $700,000 now. I'd say me, like the average architect, typically walked around with a $300,000 salary for the most part of my career. That's what a good architect does. Obviously, I get much higher offers these days, people trying to reach out to me, but I love my students. I don't need to work. And I created this program to truly help people. Look, I know architects that get incredible pay. Now, what's the difference between Hamza, between a low-paid architect and a high-paid architect? What separates the $110,000 architect from the $500,000 architect? It all comes down to the following: leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, business acumen, CXO relevancy, how much you can influence others. But I'd say probably my highest pay was in the beginning years of networking, when I was between $200,000 and $300,000 a year 20 years ago. Because if we adjust that for inflation, it's between $600,000 and $800,000 now. But those were also different times. They were times where none of the technology actually worked. Finding anybody that knew anything was impossible. And it's that. But Hakeem, you also have to understand, I know what goes into getting people hired. And I teach it to my students as well. I've never been on a job interview for which I didn't get an offer. Never. Because I know exactly what employers want. And I become what the employer wants. And I mean it. I don't just act it, I mean it. And, that's really the thing. It's easy to earn a lot of money in tech. It's easy. It's easy to earn a lot of money in any career if you're good at it. What's the biggest problem, Hakeem? I know my job, my job, my job, my job, my job. And I'm like a laser-like focused person and I'm good at it. I don't know how to do anybody else's job at all. Zero. Now, most people become a jack of all trades, which is a master of none. And when they divide their focus among so many things, their knowledge level is so small. Now, Kim, I want you to understand this. Facebook was down for almost 8 hours due to a BGP misconfiguration. The Google Cloud was down for hours because of a BGP misconfiguration. It took a lot of the customers down. I'm pretty sure if I heard it recently, half of India was taken down from a Cloudflare single CDN, which should never occur, made a BGP error. Now, when you've got a guy like me that's got tens and thousands of hours plus of BGP knowledge, we don't make those errors because we know what we're doing. So kind of what's the difference? I know BGP networking engineers are earning $500,000 a year because just that one person can save an outage which will cost billions of dollars of damage. So my recommendation is as follows. You want to earn more in your career? Leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, emotional intelligence, ROI modeling, etc. In fact, early in my career, when I had a full-time job instead of the contracting cool stuff, one of the hiring managers said to me, Mike, do you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer like you and a $300,000 architect, an enterprise architect? And this was like 20 years ago. I'm like, tell me, please, I need to know. And he said, look, Mike, you already peaked. You've got a CCIE, a CISSP, stop certifications. So you've got too many of them. Remove them from your resume. He said, remove them. He said, remove them. He said, I need you to be seen as a leader. He then said, it's the impact you make to your customers. It's the impact you make to the organization. He said, no more technical knowledge is going to increase your impact. You're already there. He said, but improve your leadership skills, improve your sales skills, improve your executive presence, get CXO relevant, really go out there and understand the business acumen. How do you transform a customer's business? A year later, I was in the high-paid world, and it never looked back. And that's really the key. What do most people focus on? Their next certification, their next certification, their next certification. And after a certain point, all these extra certifications lower their salary because they make them look like a jack of all trades and a master of none. Be a master at your career. I mean, truly master it. Like an Olympic athlete. You don't see Simone Biles, probably one of the world's best Olympic gymnasts. You don't see her doing marathon running or wrestling because it's not her sport. You see Michael Phelps in the pool swimming and some cross-training to make him better, but swimming. That's why they focus on their careers. That's what it takes to be a winner. In America, we have this sport called baseball. I've seen it 2 or 3 times. I don't know it very well, but there's these people called pitchers that throw the ball. And when it comes to hitting the ball, they never hit it, ever. And you know why they get hired and paid millions of dollars per year? Because they're so good at throwing the ball, nobody cares that they can't hit. They're hired for a reason. They're a specialist. And when it comes to medicine, I want to put it in the context that came to really make you understand. I come from an internal medicine world. An internal medicine physician that's working 70 hours a week is earning $200,000 a year. I know a knee surgeon that's so good that he only accepts cash. And he only doesn't do orthopedic surgery, only knee surgery, knee orthopedic, not back, not ankles, not hips, just knees. He's so good he can charge about $20,000 cash, not even accept insurance, to do about 5 needs a day. So, internal medicine person killing themselves working 68 hours a week for $200,000 a year because they're a generalist. Knee specialist earning $100,000 a day, $500,000 a week, $2 million a month, $24 million a year because he is the master of that one thing. And people are willing to travel all around the world and pay for his help because they have knee pain. Kind of look at it that way. That's exactly what it takes to be successful in your career. Be the best, you'll get paid the best. And I want you to. That's what we do. Priyanka, I've enrolled for your Cloud Architect Basic program. Is there a way to upgrade it to advanced when you need to? Of course there is. Just send an email to us to info@gocloudcareers.net and just tell us your goal is to upgrade. What my team will do is the following. They will look at the price you paid versus the price of the full program, and they will charge you just the difference, nothing else. And they'll basically send you an invoice, and they'll update your membership, and you'll be invited to the next classes, and we'd love to see you in class. Of course there is. And you don't need to buy another program. Only whatever is the cost difference between the two classes. We want our students to be the most successful we can. What skills do you need to be a cloud architect? You need the following technical skills. You need to design, present, and sell. Remember, architects don't touch the tech. On the technical side, that means understanding how to design systems, which means you need to know the network and data center, which makes you know all the clouds. So you need to know BGP in depth, to some degree interior gateway protocols such as OSPF. You need to know IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, routing, aggregation, route summarization, etc. Next on the list, you need to understand switching, which means VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, port channel, ether channel, link aggregation groups on the switching side. On the WAN side, you need a complete understanding of IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, private lines, Ethernet over MPLS, software-defined networking, and SASE. You need to have a good understanding of NAT, and NAT's not just good at the internet, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, port address translation, etc. DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, those kind of things. There's some of the networking skills that you're going to need. And on the data center side, you're going to need to understand servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file storage, databases, what kind to use, when to use them, how to scale them, next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, authentication systems, et cetera, encryption, that kind of technology. So I've just given you about 30,000 pages of reading, or you could take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. Now, the next thing, Taiwo, is you have to understand we Cloud Architects don't touch the technology, but we design it and present it and sell it, which means you're going to have extremely good architectural skills, which is putting the pieces together. And we teach that, but there's almost no knowledge out there. This is not covered in certification, etc. Then from there, we need sales skills. How do you sell something? You need executive presence skills. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a cloud architect. I won't work. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm a cloud architect. I'm here to help you. Executive presence. CXO relevancy skills. What do you say to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO? You'll be doing a lot of responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs. You're going to need to know how to do that. Now, as a solution architect, you're going to be writing thought leadership papers for your company. It's going to be on the couple of websites. You're going to have executive writing skills. You're also going to be presenting at conferences, and you're going to have some extremely good executive presentation skills and conference presentation skills. You're going to be negotiating deals plus or minus $1 billion. So you're going to have extremely good negotiation skills. And those are the skills that you're going to need to have to be a cloud solutions architect. We teach them all in our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. You can get them on your own. If you get them on your own, understand in about 25,000 pages of reading, you'll get the tech skills. And those other things, the presentation skills, if you're not with us, you can still get them, but it's going to cost you $30,000 to $50,000. And that's why we architects are paid so much, because it's these high value skills, the soft skills, the executive presence, the business acumen, the business knowledge. You kind of almost need MBA level knowledge, and we teach that to our students in this program. Because a cloud architect is not a techie. They're not an engineer. They're a cross between an executive, and a technology professional. I love my life. It's amazing you offer content for free on YouTube. Thank you for doing this. I love my life. What I try and do is offer as much free as I can on YouTube. I work to make sure our free is better than any of our competition's paid offerings, because I don't want anybody to have to suffer with these PowerPoint slides with voiceover taught by somebody that doesn't know anything, where they say blah 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 blah. So, for example, is that. So we try to make sure our free is better than anything else, and our paid. Wow, you should hear from our students and the results they get. Jeremy, right? I don't know of many people who market business skills in relation to getting a job. Most marketing is about certification to get hired. I think that's why people focus on getting a cert. Jeremy, that's right. So many people focus on thinking their marketing is on getting a cert. And guess what? They go on an interview after interview, and they don't get hired. That's why I started this company. People kept saying, I put out a video on how do you get your first job? And people wrote me emails and said, please help me, please help me, please help me. Getting certified does not help you get hired at all. Nobody hires you because you're certified at all. Nobody cares. Now, the certification may help you get an interview, and that's why we like them. Meaning, it helps someone think there's a chance in the world, a 1% chance you might be competent. So that helps the interview. Now, it's the knowledge of training how to do it. If you don't have the business skills, you're not getting hired. I mean, forget it. You're just not getting hired. If you don't have the sales skills, you're not getting hired. If you don't have the interview skills, you're not getting hired. If you don't have the leadership skills, you're not going to get hired. Because nobody's going to give you a coding test, Jeremy. They're going to say, tell me how this works. On every architect job, nearly every one, a good one, Amazon, everybody else, they're going to make you deliver a presentation. And they're going to be looking at how you deliver the presentation. It's going to be extremely great. So, if you try to market yourself with certifications, I can promise you will fail. I can tell you right now. So marketing is about the following: pricing, promotion, what you produce, etc. And that's why, Jeremy, I've interviewed every hiring manager I could find and every recruiter I can find for the last 20-some years. I've interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands of them. I've also interviewed 6,000 certified people. And I got to tell you right now, if I see more than 2 certifications on a resume, I won't even talk to the person because I know they don't know anything. I know they're busy focused on certifications and getting training. And Jeremy, I have students that come in with 6 and 8 certifications. Mike, I can't get hired. And I remove all but 2 of their certifications. They're like, Mike, I just got this $250,000 job. Why did getting rid of all this stuff make such a difference? And I said, how did your interview change? And they said, Mike, here's what happened. Prior to this, they interviewed me based on the contents of every certification. Now they just give me architect questions, and I answered it like an architect. And they love me for it. So you can market yourself any way you want. I know people that spend millions of dollars a month on Facebook ads, and some of them get results and some of them don't. It's a matter of using what's most effective. That's what it takes, is effective marketing. Chris, we can go to the next one. Victor, hey, Mike, when you say your students build a cloud from scratch, can you give me more details for that? Victor, building a cloud. You should be able to know how to build. A good cloud architect could build AWS from scratch. If they came to one of my students and said, Mike, I'd like to start my own cloud and start selling services, every one of my students do it. So what do my students do? They VPN into my data center. They pick up a server. They set up the cloud's control plane, the cloud networking, and the cloud data plane. And then they've got a cloud just like the AWS cloud. My students typically build an OpenStack cloud, but you can build a Nutanix cloud as well. Why, Victor, do I use an OpenStack cloud? Well, everybody has their own personal cloud, private cloud. American Express has their own cloud. American Airlines has their own cloud. I could go on from company to company to company, but most big companies also have their own cloud, and they connect to one or more public clouds as well. So our students will build a cloud, Victor, a real cloud. And once you know what a real cloud is, you'll be able to convince people that you're understanding. And Victor, let's talk about it. So when it comes to getting hired, what do hiring managers look like for? Technical competency, trustworthiness, knowledge of what you know and don't know, energy, enthusiasm, passion, willingness to go above and beyond on a team player. So now you got 2 situations. You got a child. I set up an S3 bucket. That's what they look like. It feels like a child. Now you've got my student. I designed and built a cloud. Okay, which person is more competent? The person that spent 3 minutes to turn a bucket up, which I taught an 8-year-old to do in less than 5 minutes, or the person that built the cloud? Which person is more energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the technology? Someone who built the cloud or someone who did something? Now, next, who's willing to go above and beyond? The person that took a Udemy course and didn't get hired, that basically taught them, how to set up an EC2 instance, versus someone that built the cloud. So it's about perception. When someone has no experience, you've got to show the hiring managers that they're so competent that they can't live without them. So that's exactly what we deal with. And any and all of you could build your own cloud. If you're not one of my students, you could go buy yourself a Xeon server with a minimum of 16 cores, minimum of 128 gigs of RAM, and minimum of 3 SSD drives in RAID 0. And it should be between 3 years old, so 3 to 4 years old. So for about $2,000, you could buy your own server to build your own cloud. You could. Or you can take my course, which is right now for $700, and learn how to build your cloud, learn cloud architecture, learn the executive skills, sales skills, resume skills, everything, negotiation skills, and get hired, and still use our servers to build the cloud for a third of the price. But that's up to you guys. But I just want you to know how to get hired. That's all that matters to me. Go ahead, Chris. You know, we're pretty much closing the end of our time. We've got approximately 10 minutes to go. Mark Simpson, you're back. The interview went great. Congratulations, Mark. I love when my students go in an interview and they say it came great. You made it past the recruiter and should be hearing from the company soon. Mark Simpson, I am so thankful and happy. Let's get you cloud hired. I know you're only with me for about 6 weeks or so, but I'm excited to have you. I used the techniques that you learned in Mike's class, really felt a cohesion with the recruiter. Fingers crossed, cloud hired, but that was the first step. Mark Simpson, I'm so happy. Congratulations. I know you're going to be successful soon. Amazing the difference confidence makes. Yes, Mark, yes. When you know exactly what's coming at you and you have perfect preparation, the interview is not stressful at all because it's just a game that you're playing. You know, the interview shouldn't be your first time experience. It should be so normal that you practiced it and you mastered it. And Mark, I know you. I know your diligence. I know your leadership skills. I know exactly who you are. I'm sure so soon something incredible is coming your way. And I'm so excited. Your first interview that you've been on since you've been with just went well. Congratulations, Mark. Congratulations. I think see big things in your future, and nothing will make me happier. You have no idea. Let's get you cloud hired. Amar, you have a solutions architect and professional experience, but no hands-on moves. Can I advise you how to learn a job? Amar, you're going to have to learn how to become a cloud architect. The Certified Solution Architect Professional is the name of a service and how to configure that. We don't configure anything as a solution architect or a cloud architect. We design, present, and sell. So you've got to get training. The training must be in the networking and data center technologies. You must know BGP, for example, which is not covered in any of these certifications. You should understand OSPF or interior gateway protocols. You must understand IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route aggregation. You must understand WAN technologies, such as IPsec tunnels, SSL-based VPNs, Ethernet over MPLS. You must understand, because and I'll give you a little more about this tomorrow in a minute. You must understand when to use software-defined networking or SASE. You must understand switching, block storage, object storage, file storage. You must understand ARP, proxy ARP, DNS, DHCP. From a switching perspective, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc., port channel, ether channel, link aggregation groups. ARP, proxy ARP, DNS, DHCP. 99% of this stuff is not covered in the Certified Solution Architect Professional. Then next, you need to understand servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, real knowledge of storage area networks, real knowledge of next generation firewalls, VPN concentrators, IBS system, real knowledge of databases, and not the stuff, the proprietary stuff covered in these things. Then at MAR, we architects don't touch the tech ever. We design, present, and sell. So you'll be able to hear from Delroy Batt, who just got hired with no experience as a cloud security architect. He'll look at some videos on my channel. You'll be able to hear from Coyote, who was hired by AWS with no hands-on experience because he took my program. You can see Romanek Ivan Tamba that got hired by AWS while I was in college. Again, no hands-on experience. You can see Daniel Bosu, who didn't even complete high school, but he's an incredible cloud architect, super smart, great heart, and so capable, who just got hired by JP Morgan Chase, again with no cloud architect. Yesterday, one of my students announced that she just got hired and her last job was a psychologist, no hands-on experience. What matters is the skills to do the job. Competency. Competency, not experience. I'll give you 2 examples. And that's why my students with no experience get hired all the time. They have the right skills for the job. You got 2 people over here. On the left-hand side, we've got somebody with a PhD in information security, a CISSP, a CISM, etc., etc. All of it. And 25 years experience. On the left, we've got a 12-year-old little girl with cute little pigtails, and she breaks in and hacks into the system that was designed by this person. Who's more competent? The little girl. Employers need competency, 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 and the right skills. Get those skills, and you'll be hired. But it's not just tech skills. Okay, Chris, I know we've got a couple more. Let me try and do as many as I can in the next 5 minutes. Enoch, are there any prerequisites? No. Come to my program and follow the program exactly. We will teach you everything that you need to know. And if you come with prerequisites, chances are we're going to have to unlearn those things and teach you the right way. So come, Enoch. We'd be excited to work with you, and we'll do anything we can to help you. How do you improve writing skills? You need training, Ines. You need training. We provide that training, and we will make you do it again and again. But if you're not with us, there are courses that teach executive writing. They'll be several $1,000s, but I encourage you to do one. You're going to have to learn how to do it. Or right now, you can take advantage of our course at 30% off using coupon code potential. Or you can get an MBA. They'll teach some of these things as well. Okay. Tejas, they say if you work in the same company for 2 to 3 years, you can go to the cloud either way. Is this true? If so, should I join IT from the beginning? Tejas, look, things are company specific, but I don't start people at the bottom, ever. I don't advise people to take a help desk job. I don't advise people to take an admin job. I never start at the bottom. None of my students ever started to move the bottom. I would recommend that you train for the job you want and get there. Who knows? You could join a company and be laid off in the next 2 years. They could go bankrupt in the next 2 years. You may get a new manager that has no desire to move you. So my advice is to train for the job you want, get hired for the job you want, and be done with it. Not start at the bottom, and each time try to work your way up a grade. I don't have people starting at low salaries. My people start, generally speaking, 90+% are over 6 figures or $100,000 a year or more on their first job. They don't start at the bottom and try to work their way up. They start midway through to the top and do great. Amara was actually a medical analyst, but your passion is for IT. Hopefully you'll be able to get in touch with him. Not sure who you're trying to get in touch with. But Amara, I used to practice internal medicine, and my first job was a senior engineer. And my job 6 months later was a lead architect. So I'm a medical professional. I can practice internal medicine. Why did I develop a system on getting hired with no background and experience or degrees in tech? Because all mine were in medicine, business. For me, 25 years ago, and I've been using it years and years and years. So you'll be able to get hired. All you need to do is sign up for our course. The link is in there. The 30% discount is there, and you'll be hired. Okay, well, this is going to be the last question we can take, and it will be there. Hi, Mike. What will you do when all the recruiters specify they want XX years experience? You're currently studying SAA and SAP, or after that, do sysops. Well, first, I don't know what job you want. If you study sysops, I promise you it's going to make it 10 times harder for you to become a cloud architect. I've never been on a job interview for which I never got hired for. And I've also never been on a job interview for which I had more than 10 to 20% of the skills that are there. My students get hammered by recruiters with no experience. Hammered because they have the right thing. I got hired with no experience. I just gave you an example. So Daniel Bosu got hired, and he didn't even finish high school with no experience. Roman Ikibantamba got hired by AWS with no experience. Jeffrey West, for example, was a student of mine, and he was doing geospatial imaging, which had nothing to do with it, and he got his first cloud architect job. Who else didn't have? Coyote got hired by AWS with absolutely zero experience. Jennifer, one of my students, just got hired by a big bank, and she was a psychologist in her last job with no tech experience. Delroy Batt just got hired. And there's some job postings where they say, I want 20 years Kubernetes experience, which hasn't even existed that way. A job description is a joke to me. What happens is my students get harassed by hiring managers and recruiters based upon their LinkedIn profiles, their resumes, and the fact that they're part of Go Cloud Careers. I've got students calling me saying, Mike, just because I'm Go Cloud Careers, I get interview requests because they know you don't let us sneak out there with nonsense certification knowledges. And there's two kinds of recruiters. There's good recruiters and bad recruiters. The people that just want this are the bad recruiters. And what I mean by the bad recruiters, here's their approach. They talk to as many people as they can and they spam everybody's inboxes with, knowledge for an interview. And then they don't take anybody. And they're just keeping you the resumes around in case they've got a job in the future. Good recruiter. I work with a lot. I called Christina Marino, and she got me my first job on Wall Street. I had 6 months tech experience, and she got me a job that needed 15 years. Because what happens is I called her, and I told her what I wanted. And she said, Mike, I know these 2 banks that are willing to hire you, would be willing to hire you by talking to you. She sent me to the first one, and I turned it down. She sent me to the second one that day, and I took it. And both interviews with 0 experience, more than 6 months, were made to me on the spot. In fact, 3 of my 5 interviews have been my jobs that I've ever taken were on the spot hiring. And I never had the experience they wanted, never had half the skills that I wanted. But what I did have, the things that mattered the most to the hiring manager, I was an expert on. So there's that. But if you want to be an architect and you start studying maintenance, which is SysOps, understand they're going to tell you they're not interested. I have to remove the SysOps, the DevOps, and the cloud developer certifications off of everybody who actually desires a good cloud job, because a cloud architect job, because it's somebody else's job. I must end here. I hope we all had a good time. Let me rephrase. Tomorrow, join us for the completely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. We'll tell you everything you need to know to get that first cloud architect job. Right now and temporarily, we are offering 30% off of all of our products using coupon code potential. So now's the perfect time for you to upgrade your salary, upgrade your career, and get cloud hired and paid a lot more than you've ever dreamed about. And we'll do it better, faster, and cheaper than anybody else in the world for the lowest price in the world. That's what I do. I don't need to work. I came out of retirement to help you all get cloud hired or cloud promoted. And every day I've got a student that's doing so. So hope you've had a wonderful time today. Catch up to you very soon. Take care, everybody.